Welcome to Season 2 of Path of the Brush, powered by Ultra Pro. Let's sling some paint. Woo! That guitar riff, man, at the end of that is just amazing. Hey, welcome to another episode of Path of the Brush. I'm your host, Rick, and we have got a real special guest with us this week. We have AJ from, what is that, Ryder Games, who's killing it over on Kickstarter right now. Hey, AJ.
That's the one. Hey, Rick,
Woo!
how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us. I'm really excited to be able to chat with you while I paint an amazing miniature that you sent this week. We'll be painting Krampus, which is kind of serendipitous, if you ask me, considering on the tickety talks over there, I'm known as Tabletop Santa. So it's kind of fun. So how's things going with you, AJ? Everything good?
Things are going great.
Yeah.
No, we're super excited. We are a little over, I guess, today is one day over a week since we launched the Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
It's been, or 2 days, sorry. It's been awesome, and we are plugging right along. People love Final Girl, and we love giving them Final Girl. So
yeah, you do. And when I first saw it, I can't remember when it was. I think it was 2019 that the first series came out, or was it 2018?
No, it was actually 2021.
Was it really? I thought it was before. I thought it was before the pandemic. But those years.
No, we actually launched the Kickstarter right in the middle of the pandemic, the first series, and then it delivered sort of into the year 2021, and then series 2 delivered earlier this year.
Okay, because that first couple cons, once we were, I think it was Origins post pandemic, the very first Origins, that was maybe where I saw it. But I was like, what is this?
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of took everyone. We had a really good first Kickstarter. I mean, it was pretty strong in its own right, but ever since it came out and people got to start playing it, it really took off.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of buzz about it at the show, and what was kind of crazy is even with being immersed in the space as I am, I was taken aback. I was like, how did I not know about this, considering I follow a lot of your guys' content, and one of my favorite products you guys make are the graphic novel adventures. And it's like, whenever I would buy something for like my friends for their kids for Christmas, it would be those books, because they're amazing, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, here's this Final Girl. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
what is that? So what I would like to do or get from you is a little history behind Van Ryder Games, like its genesis, and what was what made you decide to jump into the arena of game publishing?
Oh, well, yeah. How long you got, man?
We have an hour 45.
No, I'm just joking. So basically, it was kind of around 2009, 10, 11, around that time frame.
Okay.
I had kind of been getting back into board games. I grew up on D&D, Hero Quest, Magic the Gathering, all the stuff many of us play when we were kids. And kind of at some point in high school, college, I was an athlete and played baseball at a pretty high level. And so all of my kind of nerdy side things kind of took a little bit of a back seat while I was pursuing, basically trying to make the big leagues for baseball. And, fast forward to the 2010 timeframe, I had long since been done with baseball. I'd gotten a corporate job. I was married. We started having kids. And I was like, man, I want to I love zombies, and I was like, I want to see if there's any cool zombie board games out there. So I started looking around. And I think I'd been on Board Game Geek a few times before, but then I kind of really got back to it and like found the game I found that got me kind of quote unquote back into the hobby was Last Night on Earth.
Okay.
And uh, I had this great game, and I was struggling to find other people to play with or to get out to a game night because we had young kids. And the thought hit me like, man, if this game played solo, then I could just play it myself, right? Like I wouldn't need anyone else. So Van Ryder Games, the genesis of Van Ryder Games started, and at the time, I mean, I was just thinking, hey, I'm going to design a game, right? Like it was not, I'm going to build a huge company. It was like, I'm going to make a game that I can play, right? It's a
Right.
zombie game for one player.
Okay.
And so that led me to searching around, and I found the Game Crafter, which is a site that you can make one copy of a game if you want to, right? Like,
Right.
and I was like, wow, this is cool. So I started learning how to do that on that site. And
Hmm.
I actually designed another game or two, a few other games before I designed the zombie game, which is the one I really wanted to do, uh, solely for the purpose of learning how to add cards into the game crafter and build
Hmm.
components and order it and see how all that worked. So I did all that, and then I set forth on, okay, I'm going to make this zombie game. The idea, it was our first game, our first published game, um, and our first Kickstarter was called If I'm Going Down, and it's a zombie game where you're not going to live. You're going to get
Okay.
killed. It's just about how many zombies you could kill or take with you before you go. And around
Okay.
that time, I'm
So if you're going
learning.
down, I'm taking y'all with me.
Right, exactly. And around that time,
Oh,
Kickstarter was kind of becoming a thing, right? Like board games were
yeah.
getting funded on Kickstarter. So when I saw that, I have a very entrepreneurial spirit. So I was like, I wonder, like maybe I'll make this game and get some really nice art for it and um, put it out there and see if people want it. And if they do, then I can, you know, print 500 copies or whatever and do that.
Okay.
So in the early days of Kickstarter, I did that. We raised a little over $10,000, which at the time was a fairly good amount on Kickstarter. um,
Absolutely.
this was back when, I mean, at that time, I don't think a project had yet done six figures. But V-Day Dice soon after, I think, did it.
Okay.
But um, anyway, but yeah, so that was amazing. I was thrilled with that, and I kind of set forth on the journey of becoming a game publisher.
Okay. That's a pretty interesting story, considering that was around the time when, like you said, it was kind of like virgining uh, space to jump on Kickstarter to make a project. And yeah, I think even today, for a fledgling company just getting into the space, a 10K win is still a pretty decent number for some in some cases, right? Uh,
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I
yeah,
think that you know 10, 12 years later now, costs are a lot higher. It's a little bit harder probably to do a print run with that amount, and things
absolutely.
have changed a lot. But like, yeah, I mean, no one would say 10,000 isn't a good amount of money for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. But you guys are doing a little better than that this time around, right?
We've come a long way. We've come a long way since those days, and I don't ever take it for granted. I
Right.
never go into a Kickstarter. You know, I go in with confidence, but I'm never cocky and thinking, well, we're always going to fund no matter what.
Right.
Just because I feel like as soon as you start to think like that,
Hmm.
you're going to start to lose your edge, and you're going to potentially you know fall back into the crowd if you're not constantly sort of innovating and growing.
That's a great philosophy to have and put to practice for sure. The what would you say among, let's say, uninitiated, someone who's never done a Kickstarter, uh, could see as a misconception, right? A big misconception in regards to a successful Kickstarter.
Oh, that's easy. I think the biggest misconception is that when you do a Kickstarter, you're not just you're not just making a game, you're starting a business.
Okay.
uh, and there's some exceptions to that. I'm not saying that you can't just do one game,
Hmm.
but like you're going to have, regardless, even if you're just saying I'm going to do one game and that's it, I'm not trying to make money, you're still going to have to figure out logistics, you're going to have to figure out customer service, you're going to have to figure out, taxes, like all this other stuff that kind of comes with it that no one really wants to do. They just want to make their game.
Right.
um, I think that now that you don't see quite as much people not understanding that, but I do still think there are times where, especially new designers, that may not be thinking of all the ramifications of funding something on Kickstarter.
Right. Uh, so when you did your first one, what was the one thing that was your biggest lesson learned?
Oh gosh, this I don't know if people will find this to be a funny story, but it was a little bit painful for me. But now looking back, it's kind of funny. So one of the things I offered in the first Kickstarter was that I would sign copies of the game. And I'm
Nice.
happy to sign copies of the game. People come
Hmm.
up to Gen Con, they want me, or wherever,
Hmm.
not a ton, but every once in a while, I'll
Yeah.
happily sign. But with that first game, at the time, I was using, a partner. At the time, it was Game Salute. I think they're Tabletop Tycoon now. And
Okay.
but anyways, um, I wasn't getting the game shipped to me. They were going to them so that they could help ship them to the backers.
Okay.
And but I had to sign the copies, right? So what we did is they brought, I think it was like 200 copies or 100 copies to Gen Con,
Hmm.
and I had to like go to their hotel, get all these boxes, bring them back to the convention hall, and go upstairs into the media room and like sign all these copies and then bring them back to them.
Oh
And it
my
was
God.
just like such a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Um, and I hated every second of it. I'm glad that people got their signed copies, but
Right.
in that moment, I said, I will never do signed copies as part of a Kickstarter again.
Okay. That's uh that's a good lesson learned for sure. That's and you didn't get carpal tunnel or anything like that? You avoided
Not that
all
I
that?
know of yet.
All right.
I am getting older though. I'm starting to feel some of that.
Uh-oh.
So
Well, that
hopefully,
also might be from your sports background.
yeah,
Yeah.
who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm getting there where I'm like, oh man, starting to feel some of the effects of age coming.
Yeah. What position did you play in baseball?
I played outfield, so I played mostly center field. I
Okay.
played at Rice University in Houston.
Okay.
My senior year, we went to the College World Series.
Hmm.
This behind me here is actually a College World Series picture with all my teammates signed it.
Nice.
Um, and then I played a couple of years on minor league baseball for the Toronto Blue Jays.
What but what minor league team were you? What did you play
So
for?
I just was in single A. I was played in
Okay.
a town called Auburn, New York.
Okay.
I got when I remember when I signed, they were like, "You're gonna go play in Auburn." I was like, "Okay, cool." Like I was thinking I was going to Alabama somewhere because Auburn College
Right.
or Auburn University, and they were like, "No, no, no, you're going like upstate New York." And I was like, "Oh my gosh,"
No.
because I grew up in Texas, so that was
Hmm.
okay. But it worked out because I ended up meeting my wife, who we've been married. We just had our 18-year anniversary, and I met
Oh
her up there
wow.
while I was playing baseball.
All right. Very
Yeah.
cool. There is a baseball player in the Houston area, or played for the Astros and the San Francisco Giants, I believe,
Hmm.
was the other team, before he retired. But he owns a game store in Houston.
Really?
Yep. His name is Hunter Pence.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Yeah, I follow the Astros quite a bit. He
Hmm.
was a real good player. You know, it's funny. People actually sometimes would tell me that I look like him or he looks like me.
I was actually going to make that comment as well. Uh,
Yes,
and
I have heard that before.
I, I've, um, I've met Hunter a few times, and I've interviewed him a couple times at his store.
Uh-huh.
down in Houston.
See,
It's
that
called
part I did not know. What is his store?
it's called the Coral Sword. It's a game cafe.
Okay.
He owns it with a gentleman by the name of Sandiford,
Huh.
and also Ming Chen from the AMC show Comic Book Men.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Um,
Did not know that. No, I'm from Houston, so I'll have to try to go over there next time.
it's a
But
really nice little spot. But and it's funny, loves playing like Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons
yeah.
and all that stuff. But when you mentioned that you played baseball, and it reminded me that there are so many athletes today that are in our space that are
Hmm.
fans of either, if not games, comic books. And I feel
Hmm.
like um, because of that lifestyle of being on the road and being at a high level of play, they may not be able to play with a lot of friends. And I think Final Girl would be something that might be a
Hmm.
cool thing for folks on the road that are into that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. I actually had a few months ago, a lineman for the New Orleans Saints actually reached out to me, and he loves Final Girl and he was
nice,
needing a few different items, so I helped him out. But yeah, that was real cool. I'm a pretty big fan of NFL football, and
nice.
I told him, I said, well, my team's the Titans, and we play all the first week, so other than that, I'll be cheering for you. And he was cool, and they beat
Yeah.
us, so I'm sure he's happy.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he is.
But yeah, yeah, you're right. It's fun to see stories. I think there was a story a few years back of the Green Bay Packers playing Catan in their
Right.
locker room. That's always cool for sure.
Yeah. And what was it? The Cleveland Browns did a like a live D&D game
Hmm.
for charity.
Yeah,
So yeah, seeing athletes and not knowing that you played at a high level is kind of cool too.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a really neat, like, bit of history that maybe some folks didn't know, and I like that. Uh, and when you said that, yeah, you played on a minor league team for the Blue Jays,
Hmm.
the Lugnuts here in Lansing, Michigan, I think at one point was a Blue Jays farm teamer
Okay.
as well, but now they're Oakland A's.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's actually I didn't honestly even realize that till I was in the minors myself. How often you know affiliates will jump around and kind of a town will be affiliated with one team for a few years, and then
right.
I don't it's like they license it or something, or like, but I'm pretty sure the town um, I played in is still the Blue Jays, but I'm not 100% about that.
It's a Canadian farm team now because there were three teams that apparently were farming for the Blue Jays, and the commissioner. It's weird that I know this, right? Because I'm not a big sports guy, but
Yeah.
I went to a Lugnuts game recently, and I was talking to the owner of the team's facility or whatever,
Hmm.
and I asked about a little bit about the history because I was like, I didn't realize it was an Oakland A's. He goes, no, that's new for us within like the last year or so. Apparently, the commissioner shut down almost half of the farm teams because there were so
Oh,
many out there
yeah.
that it was this wasn't, I guess, cost effective or something. And
Gotcha.
um, Toronto had three, and now they're
Hmm.
down to one. And it was between Lansing and the Canadian farm team, and of course
Okay.
they had to go with the Canadian farm team.
Yeah, you're right. It looks like Auburn Double Days is now a Washington Nationals affiliate. So
Oh,
yeah, they've definitely changed.
so the Krampus is coming along pretty well. Uh, I think I'm just putting some browns on them for some basings, and I put the wicker basket. I put some yellows,
Hmm.
and then I'm going to go through and dirty it up a little bit because it would be dirty from coal and
Yeah.
all the stuff that he'd be carrying around. Um,
Sure.
so is Krampus, in regards to the Final Girl series that you
Hmm.
guys do? Krampus is not part of the series. It's a special thing. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we actually kept, so the feature film was called The North Pole Nightmare. And just to give a little bit of background on Final Girl, how it works is we have a core box that has kind of all your core components.
Hmm.
And then we sell these things called feature films, which is another box, and it has a killer and a location.
Okay.
So, and all of the killers and locations are modular and you can mix and match them. So,
Okay.
what we did for this series three, we actually kept it a secret, and we did not tell anyone external for basically since I had the idea, or like basically January, the beginning of the year. We immediately started working on it, and I
Hmm.
had the idea of like, man, what if we could like get this done and actually get it to people by Christmas? That would be amazing. And so what we did was we decided, okay, what we're going to do, going to do our Series 3 Kickstarter. When we hit our funding goal, we are going to let everyone in on this huge secret. We're going to let the backers know that, they are going to be getting something new, not in a year from the Kickstarter, but within a couple months of it. And so
Nice.
what we're doing is if you back Final Girl Series 3, you're essentially getting an access pass to a special pledge manager we're going to do just for North Pole Nightmare. Um,
Nice.
and so immediately after the Kickstarter, uh, I'm going to start. We'll put together that pledge manager, and as soon as funds clear, which is 2 weeks after the funding date,
Hmm.
we'll have people immediately go in and put their address and shipping in, and then get it out to people. So it is, and it's a special feature, so it's not technically part of Series Three,
Okay.
um, and it's kind of like it's kind of not part of any series, so that's why we call it a special feature. And
Okay.
we've kind of started this model, which allows us maybe to do other special features without it having to kind of quote unquote live within a series. Um, and so yeah, so this one is Krampus is the killer, and it's in the North Pole. So the location is Santa's village.
Ah, nice. That's super
So
cool.
he has Krampus. Basically, the backstory is he goes out on Christmas night and sort of delivers punishment to the naughtiest of the naughty kids while
Mm,
Santa's delivering presents and joy.
right.
And eventually, because they're both really good at their jobs, the list for him to punish gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So it's so small that he has decided, I'm going to go to the North Pole and just take my vengeance out directly on Santa and his elves.
Ooh.
So the victims in the North Pole, in the Santa's village, are all the elves running around. So he is terrorizing the elves, and um, you as the final girl, obviously. So the final girls in the box are Mrs. Claus, of course,
Hmm.
and then Cindy, who's an elf. And
Nice.
so you could play as one of those two. And there have been a couple playthroughs. We sent some copies to Paula Deming and
Nice.
Meg, and there's a few more coming, so they can see how it works.
Okay. Yeah, Paula's great.
Oh yeah, she's amazing.
The no, that's hilarious. That Krampus is like, you know what? I'm you making it so hard for me, and I gotta maintain my
Yeah,
scariness, and you're making it difficult.
yeah.
I'm gonna go.
I had to like think about what would put Krampus in the North Pole. So that was
Mm,
it was pretty easy to come up with, but
yeah,
um, it was fun to think about that.
I kind of feel like he would have that he'll get that phone call from Santa, uh,
Yeah,
where Santa will be like, I've learned I have a very specific set of skills I've learned over a long period of time. I know who you are. I know that where where you're at.
yeah,
I am going to find you, and I'm gonna ho 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 your hindside to the end of
yes.
days.
Except in our story, Mrs. Claus is the badass. So Santa actually can show up. He's a special victim if he shows up,
Okay.
um, but yeah, he's taking a little bit of a backseat to Mrs. Claus in this one, but he is there. There's
All right.
there's a reindeer you can find. There's all kind of fun stuff uh,
Nice.
in the special film.
That's amazing. So like I don't know this, and that's why I'm going to ask. Obviously, is who designed Final Girl in its first iteration?
Um, so the backstory for Final Girl is Final Girl is very much evolved from Hostage Negotiator,
Okay.
which was a hit solo game for us well before Final Girl was even thought about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I designed Hostage Negotiator all by myself.
Okay.
Um, Sometime between when Hostage Negotiator came out and a few years later, Evan Derrick, who's my business partner, joined the
Okay.
company.
Okay.
And a lot of people know him from he designed Detective City of Angels for us, which is a really amazing detective game. Um, and so Evan was like, he was wanting to kind of design a solo game, and we had talked about a few different things, and
Mm-hmm.
he actually wanted to make a horror game where the player was the killer.
Ooh,
Um,
nice.
and we ended up kind of deciding, you know, to no, we're not going to do that, but we still want to make a horror game. So me and him actually we used to have this giant whiteboard, and we just sat at the whiteboard, and we said, hey, let's start with the negotiator system,
Mm-hmm.
use all the feedback we've learned of what people like, what people maybe didn't like as much, and let's apply it to this theme. And so we basically did it together, from that starting point,
Right.
and it went from there. Um,
Okay.
so it's a definitely a co-design,
All right.
between me and him. And then I do get to take credit for the packaging system. Our boxes are magnetized. The boards are the covers, and so
Right.
they pop off of the box, which is usually blows someone's mind the first time they see it. Um, and I actually came up with that. We have, well, the graphic novel adventure, so we have
Mm-hmm.
cooperative games of those, and they use magnet box that kind of flips over one side. And a lot of games do that. That wasn't new when we did that on those, but it got me thinking, and I was like, well, if we do a killer in a location, that'd be super cool if like each side of the box was a killer in a location. And so I had the idea for the magnet boxes, and let me tell you, we got very close to actually having to scrap that because it
Okay.
took so long for the engineering and to get it right with the manufacturer. But I'm so glad that we persevered
Nice.
because it's just such an added element to the game, um, and makes setup and put away so much easier.
Do you feel like when you were going through that design process and coming up with the box and the board as a single unit, when you were at that verge of just saying scrap it, is it was literally the next step was, oh, whoop, there it is. And because you always hear like right when you're at when you're at that verge of like giving up on something is when you're either going to give up or it's going to be the big successful part of
Yeah.
the process. Did you have that kind of feeling when you were doing
Yeah.
that?
So the crazy thing about it is we got we got a sample that was great, and we were like,
Mhm.
okay, this is perfect, it's going to work. And then when we got to the next stage or whatever, the pre-production copy, and we got that one, it was not so great. And
Oh,
the the question we knew that it could be done because they gave us a good one, but the real question was, like, if this is not consistent, this is going to be a disaster, because
right,
if like half the boxes are not, the magnets aren't holding, we've got a huge, operational issue on our hands, and we're going to have, having to replace a large percentage of the boxes would have just been a killer, right? Like the
right.
cost would have been too much to bear. So we needed to have a certain level of confidence in it. And so that was actually when we kind of were like, man, what do we so we went back, and I think we added a couple magnets on each side,
Mm.
even at additional costs we weren't expecting, but um, in the end it all worked out, and the boxes are great.
Yeah, I was gonna so we have or had I was gonna say we had because I just opened a story as you know this past week and We had 4 copies of the core and I think 2 of everything that's currently available as far as the episodes,
Mhm.
the features. And I was going to bring a copy from the store to the studio to be able to show it, but it was like the second sale was the last copy today, so I already have to do a reorder on that game because
Oh, okay.
it's super popular already at our store.
Yeah.
Not, and it's probably because we're hyping it up. And I will also say this, that at the Alliance Open House,
Mhm.
you were giving away those like feature packs where you get the
Mhm.
core and a feature
Oh yeah, we
in
were
one.
showing the starter pack, the starter set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, those have also been a huge success at the store. Um, when people see that,
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, that's cool." Um,
Yeah, and we are so we've now we put those in Barnes and Noble,
mm,
and then we actually have a production of pre-bundled starter sets that are coming. So
okay.
retailers like yourself and others, you'll be able to just order it straight and have it bundled. You won't have to build the bundles, which is what you were talking about.
Yep.
We give the starter sleeves, and you can kind of build the bundle yourself.
Right. Well, that's
So
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a big help because that, like, when you're for any retailer when you're bringing on a product, and for me, like, I didn't know what our community was going to gravitate towards, but there's a lot of college kids here with Michigan State University being like a mile from the store, and come to find out, a lot of them are like looking for solo games. I was like, are you, a little bit more vernacular to it, but I was like, are you kidding me? This is amazing. And so here's this, and they're like, that's perfect. So, again, congrats on huge success on that.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So solo, however big people, when people think it's a niche, it's always bigger than what they think it is. Um,
Hmm.
and I mean, it only continues to grow. And I
Yeah.
think we're finally, it feels a little bit like starting to get past the whole stigma of like, why would you play a solo game? Like you don't
Right.
hear that nearly as much anymore, which is great because
Yeah.
I mean
I mean, you
it's
hear from
fun.
the uninitiated, right? The ones that aren't in our hobby as heavily as we'd like them to be, because I've heard it a couple times from some folks who, like, they'd ask, like, well, what's a solo game? And I always hit them with the obvious answer. Well, solitaire is a solo game. Oh,
Right.
but there's board games like that, and I go, absolutely. And when they would pick up the box and start reading it, they're like, this is for one player. Yes. And then they're like, okay, I'll get it. And then
Yeah.
come back with someone else and be like, we need to get that thing. And it just kind of waterfalls. So I think that's another part of that brilliance of it. So for everybody that's currently watching, here's a couple things. Uh, thank you, Mushroom Julie. The Krampus is looking great. I can't
Oh,
believe.
that's Julie. Julie Ahern.
Oh, is it
She's
Julie?
our yeah. She's our
Okay,
senior director of operations. Yep.
yeah, Julie's great.
Unless
Down.
someone else, unless there's an imposter out there, but she uses that username for sure.
Okay, yeah, she's awesome. Down there in Indiana.
Hmm.
So for everybody watching, if you haven't yet, please hit the heart and the bell so that you are at least following Gen Con TV, so you don't miss out on any of the amazing programs that go on here. Um, and if you haven't yet, go take a look at the Final Girl Series 3 Kickstarter. You just Google it, look it up on Google, or just uh, go to the Van Ryder socials. I'm sure you'll find a link there as well, and give it back it if you can. But something you can do too is share it on your socials so that others, because you never know who's going to see it and go, oh, that's something I want to get. I didn't know it was going on. So if you can't back it, at least share it, and that would be great. Um, we
Yeah,
also
and
like to say,
I did
yeah,
actually test the Kickstarter search. It will come up if you type "Final Girl," so
perfect.
they could do that too.
That's what we're talking about. Uh, And we would like to say a big thank you to some of our sponsors. Real quick, a big one to Ultra Pro, being the title sponsor, as we are powered by Ultra Pro. I don't have my little character clamp with me. I left it at the store. If you go to ultrapro.com, you can check out character clamps where all your miniatures, you can keep them protected in a character clamp between working on them or between playing with them on the table. They're really cool and worth getting to keep your miniatures protected because that's what Ultra Pro does. It protects our hobby. So go check it out. Also to Army Painter, with being our exclusive paint sponsor for this season, especially with a high feature on their Speed Paint 2.0.
Hmm.
Which are again an amazing product and worth having in your toolbox of paint when you're working on your miniatures. So when you're
Yeah,
following the
that's what
path
I
of the brush,
use. Those are great.
yeah, they're amazing, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then of course,
First time I used one and it like just did all the highlighting shading. It was just like a one stroke.
yeah,
It was
it's
like it felt like magic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Like
literally cheating in a bottle. It
yeah,
really is. Uh, and I will admit, and people watching this will also agree, I am not a great painter by any means. I like to paint my miniatures for tabletop use. So if they look good at 3 feet away, I'm super happy for
yeah.
that. Right. And back before the speed paint and similar products came to being, there's multiple stages you have to go through to get certain effects. And this is just like in the on your brush, on the miniature, boom, done. What the heck happened? Who's this miracle worker? And it's not, and it's the paint doing all the miracle. So,
Hmm.
which I love. Another big shout out too to Peter Atkinson, Gen Con TV, and all the staff over there that have all the different programming and that allow me to come on here with a guest or sometimes by myself to do the craziness that we do here at Path of the Brush. So big shout out to Gen Con TV and everybody over there. If you aren't currently following, again, so here's some things you might be missing. On Mondays, Peter versus the Machine, where he takes on a different game and talks about it. Board games with the brothers Murph, and then Dress to Quest. Wednesdays, Path of the Brush, followed up by Actoroki. I think today they're going to be journeying into the world of Chaldea in Peter's Egyptian area of the world. And then Thursdays, Blood on the Clock Tower, Roll with Rem Alternus. Fridays, Table Takes, and Sarah's Table. Those are the current programming. And by following and getting the notifications, and if you decide to subscribe, and I would suggest if you aren't using your, what is it, your Amazon Prime freebie, because you can subscribe with Amazon Prime to one channel for free, and it does help benefit the channel to bring you all this great content. So if you haven't used it yet, please do. Uh, so now let's get into some other fun industry convo with AJ here. So AJ, you've been in the space for now, it must be what, 38 years, right?
Yeah.
So
I
you
mean,
said
I've been
around
a gamer for
2009,
that
right?
long for sure.
You said something like 2009, right? Is when you kind of like got.
Yeah, that's when I started kind of dabbling. I think the company, I think I created the LLC in 2011. So
Okay.
yeah, 12 years,
12
13
years.
years. Yeah.
That's amazing. Uh, in that time, you've obviously had a lot of opportunity to go and attend different conventions and events.
Mhm.
What are some, like, what would you say is your top three conventions that you attend every year? Or maybe not attend anymore, but you have in the past and you just said that was awesome.
Yeah. No, I love this question. So I am, my number one has been my number one from the beginning and probably will always forever be my number one. And that's Gen Con. I just, I know that like a lot of people say, "Oh, it's too busy. I don't get time to game this, that, and the other." But the spectacle is what I love, and
Right.
as a business owner, I love the sales. So like, but even before we had booths there, oh man, I just it really is for me the best 4 days in gaming for sure. And so I love it, and so that's my number one.
Okay.
My number two is actually one that I just went to for the first time this year, and that is UK Games Expo. Uh,
Really?
oh, it's awesome. It
Okay.
it to me is like gives me all the same feels of Gen Con, just
Okay.
with like not quite as big, but man, I loved it. We did
Uh,
great there. All the people so nice. Like getting to meet the fans in the UK
mhm.
and make new ones and building relationships with our booth staff, which was amazing.
Okay,
Shout out to Steve Manser and Nikolai, if you guys are out there. Um,
nice.
and so that's my number two.
All right. So UK Games Expo, that's kind of funny. He says it's all the flair of Gen Con, but with fish and crisps, right?
Yeah,
Right. It's got to have. Uh,
yeah. I mean, it's just such a cool. The venue's so cool in Birmingham. Like,
all right.
I would, if people, if they're able to sort of do that and make a big trip overseas and go see it, I definitely recommend it. It was, I just loved it.
Okay. It's on my list. I would love to go to UK Games Expo for sure. So what's your number three?
All right, number three. Now we're starting. The first two pretty clear cut.
Yeah.
I think I think I'm gonna actually go with a business, the Gamma trade show, for number three.
Okay.
It's not a consumer facing show; it's an industry show.
Right.
But for a variety of reasons. I mean, the first time I went there, I learned a lot. So it's definitely something where if you're kind of newer in the industry, you can make a lot of connections,
Right.
go to the seminars and learn some things, um, and just kind of we some of our great business deals that we've had have been made there, and so I'll say that one as my number three.
Okay. That's a great answer actually, because when you think about eh, someone who's a fan of board games and might go to Gen Con or might go to Origins or PAX Unplugged or what is it, Gateway to the West? Is that what it's called? The one in St. Louis?
Yeah, I think that I haven't been to that one, but
Yeah.
I know of it. Yeah.
And then you have some of the smaller ones with like Gary Con, Gamehole Con, and everything. Those are the ones that most people would know and think about, right? But the fact
Yeah.
that you mention a industry event, trade show such as Gamma,
Mhm.
um, as a publisher, and anybody out there that might be watching, that if you're thinking about becoming a publisher or putting your toes in the water of publishing or in this industry, you got to go to Gamma. You have to. It's like you said, some of the best deals are made there through networking and just again hanging out with other industry folks. You never know where a great idea comes from, and a lot of times I feel like it came from the Circle Bar at the last few
Mhm.
years of.
Yeah,
But
100%.
no, that's actually really cool that you mentioned that. So again, if anybody watching has any inclination or thought of joining the industry, uh, consider joining Gamma and
Yeah,
participating in the expo. And this year, this coming up here in 2024, it will be in Kentucky, which is going to be an interesting transition for a lot of
yeah.
people.
It's in Louisville. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a much easier trip for us. So,
No,
so for that reason, I'm on board.
I'm in.
Um, but it was a different environment, which some people are
Hmm.
not thrilled about, and others I think are happy with.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do want to give. You mentioned local cons. That's actually a great
Mhm.
point. I want to do an honorable mention if I can.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Please.
so our local con is called Tennessee Game Days, and I think it's 1,000-ish, maybe give or take, people
Okay.
here in Nashville, and that's the con we get to go to and actually play games. So that one is kind of our fun one, and it's always a fun time, and that's in March. If you're here, they actually do a fall one now, which I think they just got done with. But
Nice.
we go to the spring one.
All right. I think that's a great thing too, is to recognize the small local conventions in your state or local area uh, because I think, Gen Con started in like Geneva, Wisconsin at the horticulture uh,
Right.
thing. It's a tiny little event space
Hmm.
on the lake there. And now it is huge. It's monstrous. So you never know which one of those small local ones could potentially be the next big thing. Um, and the fact that you get to play while you're there, that's ridiculous. I don't think that's fair or right. So we got some chat going on. We got Mad Mardigan. Hey, great to see you at my skeleton. Can you see a quick close up of Krampus? Yeah, absolutely. I apologize if I haven't done it yet, but see
Yeah,
if
I
we
was
can
wanting to see that too.
get a nice
Oh
shot
yeah,
of him
that's
here.
looking great.
Yeah, and I
I
like the
really
fact that
like the gray coat. Looks amazing.
yeah, well, you know, he unlike Santa who is kind of a thief in the night, but leaves something. He's a thief in the night that's taking kids, and I like the fact that it looks like there's a kid bundled up in his, you know, winter attire in the basket where Krampus likes to stuff bad children, and which is great. And then I also like the little detail of the fact that his tongue's sticking out, which is a
Yeah.
very Krampusy thing. And he's
Hmm.
got the pine ball here that he's gonna just
He's gonna just start smacking people,
smash kids. What's
smacking
that?
elves with.
Yeah, yeah, smacking elves and
Yeah.
uh, defending himself against Mrs. Claus.
Hmm.
It's amazing. Um, but yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
like
and
he
the artist for the North Pole Nightmare is Vincent
yeah,
Dutrait, which
nice.
most people in board games know him or learn about him very quickly
Mhm.
because his art is so fantastic.
Hey, I'm gonna go real quick. I just gotta. It's gonna be a quick second. My computer didn't. The plug came out or something. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. My big clod hopper kept rubbing something, and I didn't realize I was kicking the plug
All
out of the.
good.
But yeah, the Krampus is looking good. So what else we got here? Uh, if you're watching, what is everyone else's favorite convention? Sadly, I've never been to a convention. Maybe someday. My hey skeleton, you you should go to a convention if you have the opportunities. You should at least go check one out. But stay at home con. I like that.
Yeah,
uh,
we got a bunch of our we have a Discord, and I recognize a lot of these usernames.
okay.
We got a really great community over there.
Edge plays. That's a cool name. AJ, you should get more FG painting content on YouTube or Discord. That collection grows. That's right. I think.
Yeah,
Do you have a miniature section where people can show off their painted
yeah,
miniatures?
we have a channel. It's called Share Your Creations in the
Nice.
Final Girl, and that's where people usually go to. And let me tell you, man, some of our community members, the quality of the work they do is just astounding.
Oh yeah.
I go and show mine sometimes, and I'm always like, oh my gosh, like I wish my phone zoom wasn't so good because you could just see every little flaw. But
Great.
I'm like you, right? Like 3 feet away, it looks good.
Yeah.
Like I'm good with it. So
Yeah. Well, my whole reason behind that too is, you know, when I normally paint, I'm normally like right here up in my face, and I got my three
yeah.
point stance, and I'm doing my thing, right?
Hmm.
And when you're painting like that, you're going to see every detail, every potential flaw, at least what you might consider a flaw. But the thing is we don't play with our miniatures in our face.
Right.
We play with them at 3 feet away on the table, on the board. And like I said, if it looks good at that range, I think you are doing it pretty all right.
Yeah. And the old adage, you know, any colored painted miniature is going to look better than just the
Great.
plain gray, right? Like, and
100.
that's true in my opinion. Like, so I think it's great, like what you guys do, and just encouraging people to give it a shot. And it's
Thank
actually,
you.
being decent at it is, especially with speed paints, is not as hard as you might think it is.
Right. Absolutely. I think one of the fun things about it is when you get someone who is like, I've never painted before, it's gonna look horrible, and I'll be like, yeah, you're right. No, and that's okay because I can't think of anybody that ever did something the very first time and it was amazing, right?
But it might look, it probably will look better than you thought.
Right. So I always follow up with that, and when am doing like a paint and take at like C2E2 or
Mhm.
in a couple weeks at New York Comic Con, uh, there are people that are going to be like, "Oh, I don't know what." They'll sit down and try it, and then when they show you the miniature, you're going to be like, "Why aren't you teaching the classes I teach? Because you're way better than me." And they're like, "Oh, you're so nice, you're so kind." I'm like, "No, you freaking are amazing. Get out of my booth.
Yeah, you're showing me up. Get out of here.
Get out of here." Nah, I love it. And what's also really nice is when someone does it for the first time with those apprehensions, realizes that it isn't that difficult. It does look good,
Mhm.
and then becomes a fan of the hobby of painting miniatures, and they want to ask you, "Oh, are you? Do you have any starter kits? Do you have brushes or what for sale or whatever?" And next thing you know, they're on chats and then discords and showing off their miniatures. And next thing you know, they're doing commission works, and you're like, "God dang!"
Right.
So
And
I
there's
love
just
all that.
something really satisfying too about, when you paint a game and you go to play it the first time with your painted figures, like
Mhm.
it is so satisfying. You accomplish something, and especially, usually it's one of your favorite games that you're painting.
Yeah,
um, and we have people all the time, and just Final Girl being such an immersive game, just having that at one extra thing just makes it even more immersive. um, and so I never get tired of looking at painted miniatures.
right.
It's awesome.
It is a blast. I thought it was kind of funny when we were at, I think it was at Gamma, and you were across from the Vallejo booth, and I was working at the Vallejo booth, and
Yep.
and you were like, "I didn't realize you painted."
Yeah. I was like, I didn't know you did this. Yeah.
Yeah. And usually I'm not trying to hustle publishers for work.
Hey, I like that. I do that same thing you just did, where you put the dab like kind of in the middle there
Yeah,
between the wells. That's awesome.
yeah. Thank you. It's just I'm looking at my wells going, "Oh man, they're full with
They're
other
all full.
stuff."
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
the same thing.
The but yeah, this is awesome. Uh, and I appreciate you sending the miniature and allowing us to have first looks at Krampus here.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
I have a feeling that this is going to be a real popular one because the detail on this is really nice. And just again, the whole concept behind the Krampus mythology is super fun, and that you were able to take that mythology and trope and put it into
Nope, it's not gonna
a
work.
fun adventure for people to
Yeah,
play. It's pretty exciting.
I have some of the other ones. I was gonna try to hold them up, but they're not
Yeah.
really. This is Mrs. Claus. It's not really gonna like zoom very well,
So
but
if you
yeah.
put your hand behind it
Okay.
for the focal point to then be more on the miniature.
Yes, she has
Yeah, there we go.
oh no, she
What
has like a rolling pin.
is that? What that is? I was like, is
Yeah.
that a short sword?
Yeah,
Oh,
no, it's a rolling pin. It's
oh,
like it's got little design. Then we got
I love her cloak.
Comet. He's the reindeer.
Nice.
So he's looking all cool.
All right, Comet.
And then last but not least, Cindy. She's the elf. And she is right. There we go. Oh, yeah, she's got her little workshop hammer.
Oh, that's amazing. Bring it there. You go, right there. Yeah, that's great. Oh, that's awesome, man. I'm really excited to
So
see
those
those.
so that's one of the things about a special feature. The miniatures actually come in the box. Usually with like the series,
Hmm.
you the miniatures are optional and you buy them separate, and they come like all 5 feature films for series one is one whole miniatures box. So
Right.
that's kind of one of the cool new things about the special features is they'll get them right there in the box when they open it.
Oh, that's awesome. I think the fan base is going to really appreciate that kind of like, um, you're basically taking looking out for them and giving them something that they didn't even know they wanted.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'm kind of selfishly hoping is that people who don't think they would care for the minis actually, when they get Northful Nightmare, may see them and actually like them
Right.
and want to go get the other ones. Because someone asked the question the other day, and it was like, do you guys like the minis or not? Do you use them? A lot of people, are like, yeah, it adds the immersion, and some people are like, no, I don't care about the minis. And
Hmm.
like, man, it's just for a thematic game such as this one. I just like, man, once I you use the minis, I just don't see how you could go back. But you know, um, the good thing is we do allow that option. So it's it helps us keep the price down.
Hmm.
If you don't want the minis, then you don't have to spend the extra money. But
Right.
I personally like it's a no brainer. I gotta have them.
Yeah, I think it would be a no-brainer for me too. Minis, if you don't have minis, what are you even doing? So, speaking of minis and speaking of games and all the fun stuff, when it comes to the whole feature films part of the thing of the Final Girl phenomenon, one of the things I really enjoy about it is, without saying anything more than what it is you will see some tropes within some of those feature films that you will recognize, which will give you the experience of some things you've seen. And I think that's another fun part of it because who wouldn't want to be the final girl in some of those
Yeah,
tropes that you guys have adapted.
yeah.
But
And I mean, we take inspirations
mhm,
and there's little homages, I should
mhm,
say, sprinkled throughout the game and the system. Really, really kind of paying tribute and appreciation to just the incredible. I mean, me and Evan are both very much horror movie lovers, and so
nice.
and I think why one of the reasons why the game is so popular is because it's not people see that, right?
Mhm,
They they can feel the passion of what we do,
yeah,
um, and it's not just like you know a surface level kind of thing. Like
right,
we really like pour everything we love about horror movies into the game, and so you know we a little bit struck magic with that, and the number of combinations you can have. People are constantly comparing. Oh, if I play this killer at this location, it's just like XYZ movie,
right.
um, and that's awesome, right? Like it's so cool. One of the things I always like to say when I'm telling people about the game is that really will kind of hit home for people is imagine whatever your favorite horror movie is. Imagine that you could watch that movie again, and although it's using the same characters, it is totally different from the first time you saw it, but
Right.
still incredible. And
Yeah.
people go, "Whoa!" Like that's because, like, I mean, that would be a selling point to me, right? Like, if you told
Mhm,
me, AJ, you can watch Saw, you know, 15 times, and it's going to be different every time. And I'm not counting trilogies; I'm talking about the first one,
yep.
which was amazing, and the other ones are okay.
Sure.
But like, just that possibility is something so cool, and the fact that we can do that, with a board game, um, is just really incredible. And in fairness, like players' imaginations is a key component to that, right? Because
Right.
we're not we aren't. I mean, we have some things that are narrative, like we have gruesome death books and things like that are optional. But the
Right.
game itself is very emergent, and you're getting a card that has, you know, it says fire on it and it tells you where the fire is and that's it.
Right.
But if our players have the imagination to fill in the gaps, right? Like, oh my gosh, Hans like came and set this fire while I was over there getting those victims out of here. Now these victims died from the fire and the items are gone. Like the the ones that have the best time with it are the ones that can fill those story. And it's not even. I think for most people, the game kind of leads you down those paths. So it's not
Mhm.
work to do that. It's not like,
Right.
let me think about why this happened. It's like, bam, it just like hits you like, oh, that makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, like, and the combinations of how the cards come out can totally create these really cool and awesome emergent narratives.
So that was a question that one of my friends asked me tonight when I was getting packing up from the store to come here to the studio to do this about the game was what is the replayability for any of the feature films?
So for any one single feature film,
Hmm. So
so the replayability for one single feature film is very high, actually.
okay,
Um, you're only seeing a number of the different cards that are available in the game each time you play.
okay,
For example, there's 5 setup cards, but you're only going to use one.
right,
There's 16 to 18 item cards. You're probably going to have a stack. You have 3 stacks of 4. You may see 3 or 4 items, or maybe in a game where you see a lot, 5 or 6.
okay,
Terror cards, like what is driving the killer, is going to be variable. Um, Event cards, there's 10 events in each one, and you're going to see 1, 2, maybe 3 of those each game. So it's, I mean, really the analogy I gave about watching your favorite horror movie and getting a different result, that it's
hmm,
in one feature film, you're getting that.
okay,
And then when you start to add more and you can mix and match, I mean, it goes to infinite replayability very fast.
okay, perfect. Now, one of the things I asked you before we went live as a like minor primer
Mhm.
was if you could get and use any IP, not for Final Girl, just in general,
Yeah.
uh, what would be your grail IP that you would like to work on and make game content around?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot, and I don't know if I have like one single grail. One of the ones I come back to a lot is um, Wing Commander. I played Wing
Okay.
Commander growing up on
Right.
computer. Um, I love that game, and it's a sci-fi space game where you're
Right.
a pilot, and the enemy is the Kilrathi, who are like these cat, um, they,
Yeah. Giant lion like people.
anthropomorphic, yeah,
Yeah.
lions. Like, man, I love that. I always thought that would be cool. I've always wanted to like. I think a lot about trying to figure out how can I simulate a cockpit, you
Okay.
know, in a board game where it would
Right.
be kind of like first person, and maybe spaceship tokens or cards are kind of flying into view and out of view.
Okay.
Um, and then, but then one of the cool things about Wing Commander that I loved was when you go back to kind of the cap ship, there's all
Hmm.
this drama, right, between the crews, and then there's betrayals, and the story was really great. And so
Right.
that would definitely be something I think would be a lot of fun.
All right.
I mean, there's so many great IPs. Like, you know, I love Lord of the Rings. I love Star Wars. Those all would be easy things to say.
Sure.
Um, but yeah,
But
but I do honestly like really enjoy just kind of creating our own stuff.
mhm,
Um,
which
and
is a
so
which is a great answer.
yeah, yeah, and it's
So
easier, at least for I'm sure.
yeah, it's
There's
not
a
as
lot
many.
of money in licenses, but
Right.
it also feels to me like there's a lot of headache. But
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know,
When you have to always get licensor approvals,
mhm.
when especially when like you have like a great idea of about something you could do, and then they're like, well, that doesn't really fit into the verse or the narrative that
Right?
we're trying to put out there in regards to this particular product line. And then you're like, no.
Yeah, I've definitely heard horror stories around some of that where
Yeah.
you know even with like artwork, this specific thing like needs to be changed, or story things, or yeah. It sounds both fun and terrifying all at once.
I would agree with that. Fun and terrifying.
Yeah.
So now, when it comes to new product or new projects, do you do a lot of like scouting? Do you go to like any of the what is it, the unpubs or um, the spiels? You know,
Yeah, I did that early in our company's history, in the kind of I guess the first 5 or 6 years, I would say.
okay,
In the last few years, we have definitely moved more into a strategic direction of doing our own things. So we don't take submissions, and we don't look for as many outside designs. We still
okay,
do some. We do have a few,
okay,
um, but usually that's more around us kind of finding something as opposed to like something being brought to us.
okay.
If that makes sense.
More of a happenstance than a
Yeah,
actual hunt.
or like we asked for something specific and someone brought it to us, kind of deal,
Oh, I see.
or you know, like for Final Girls, for example, we have designers that design feature films that we go basically offer them, hey, do you want to design a feature film?
Okay.
Um, so yeah, but yes, and I have been to those. I love those. I think they're awesome,
Mm-hmm.
and a great place for designers to go get some real solid feedback, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of feedback all at one time in a short
Right.
amount of time. Um, so yeah, I try to stop into the unpub room at Origins or wherever they happen to be if I
Mm-hmm.
can.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, we have moved a little bit away from kind of third party designs.
Sure. What would you recommend if someone were, you know, designing their first game? Uh, what would you recommend be when it comes to their pitch? Like, because I'm guessing you've probably pitched, and have been pitched, obviously.
Mhm.
What is something you, as a publisher, even though it may not be something you currently do in regards to, like you just said, you don't go and hunt down new stuff. But if someone were to pitch to you, what would be a bit of advice you'd give to them for success?
So I within the first 2 minutes want to know why the game is special and why it is a fit for my brand. Like if you're not coming to me with those two things
Mm-hmm.
almost immediately, like then everything else doesn't really matter. And honestly, the brand one is a big one. I think that
Okay.
one's a mistake that just so many designers make. Like, I mean, people will walk up to us at conventions and
Okay.
present, a heavy euro, and it's like you didn't spend even 2 minutes going on our website and seeing what kind of games we make, right? Like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. Like when you're trying to find a home for your game, you're just like, hey, I'll talk to anyone. But
Right.
going through that, spending that little bit of extra time, figuring out which publishers actually would be a great fit for your game
Yep.
is will work wonders, because the second thing it shows is it shows that you're prepared. It shows that if the publisher is going to work with you, they can feel good about, hey, you're going to be open to, you've thought critically about this, right? Like, so if we come with an idea or a suggestion, we can be confident that you'll think critically about that too. Um, and then it's just like, why is your game special? Like,
Right.
it's got to stand out. It has to. You have to be able to tell someone very quickly, like, what makes this game special. If it's just like we threw three different mechanics together and we made this game,
Mm.
that's probably not special. But maybe if it's like, and here we did this, and here's what makes it special that no other game has done. Oh wow, that's amazing, because there are games that do that, right? They don't necessarily do anything new, but
Right.
just how they combine the mechanics is like, oh wow, like it creates a great experience. So like
Right.
that's the big things I would say.
Okay.
It's such a crowded, space right now. Like design, I, I've thought about this a lot lately, and design is simultaneously one of the most important and least important things when it comes to publishing games.
Okay. What is the what would be the antithesis to that, where it is
So
the least important, but it comes out to
yeah,
be
so the
more
reason I
important?
say that is because like ideas are a dime a dozen. Design, there's tons of designs. Like like it's but it's also very difficult to make a great game. Um, and the secret part to that is it's not just the design. Like
Hmm.
no design is a great game without great art, without great presentation, without great graphic design, without operations behind it, marketing. Like all of these things go together. You find me an evergreen, I'll find you a company that did all of those things very well.
That
And that means that a lot of great games, you know, never really become popular because they don't have those other elements with it.
right.
So um, that's why I say it's both the most and the least important because you can design the best game ever in the history of the world, and if no one ever knows it, then it's not the best game.
Right. That that's some really good advice. So everybody watching, take all that on board because it will save you a lot of time and energy
And
if
that's
you.
again, I mean, it's going full circle back to I always tell this to designers. I say you're picking the publisher just as much as they're picking you. And
Right.
even if you get an offer and it's not the right publisher, you're not compelled to take that offer. Like, and I know that's hard sometimes. Like I've told people before, I don't know if that's the best fit, right? It's hard when you have like when the one thing you want is to get your game on the shelf and to get a published game, especially when it's your first design. Like
Hmm.
I've seen it so many times before where someone chooses the wrong publisher and then it maybe doesn't even get made. Maybe it sits in limbo or like it
Ever.
hurdles come up and this, that, and the other. It's
Right.
like, and it's sad when that happens. Like,
Right.
because once you sign, that deal, that you've made the choice, and like you're with the publisher, and so if you make a mistake there, it can,
Right.
unfortunately, it can be tough.
Yeah, it can come around and bite you in the hindsight pretty quick. And yeah,
And
totally.
I've learned a lot, like on the publishing side too, where I mean, I've made mistakes before. I've had, unfortunately, a few games that we signed, and for a variety of different reasons, they never ended up getting published. And you know, there's some fault on our side, and sometimes there's some fault or onus on the designer side, and just for different reasons. And maybe those instances, looking back, were a case where maybe we weren't the best fit for the. And one of them in particular, uh, the designers asked for it back, and we gave it back to them. So
Right.
they got to eventually got there to where they felt like, no, maybe this isn't the best fit.
Okay.
So yeah, it's super important to
Yeah.
consider those things.
Okay. I think that's a lot of good advice for anybody that might be, again, thinking about putting their toes in the water. Because, I feel like everybody has an idea that could potentially be a thing, but they don't know where to go, how to start, or even, you know,
Hmm.
how to, like I said, how to pitch the idea uh,
Yeah,
appropriately.
everyone does. You're right. Like, I mean, we all play games long enough. You're gonna have some kind of cool idea.
Yeah.
Like now, that's the initial part, and then actually going and doing something is the next part. So like if you actually want to try to go make it happen, you got to go do it. Like you got to stop thinking
Right.
about it. You got to go make a
Right.
prototype. You got to start testing,
Right.
and then it's like a funnel, right? Like through each of those steps, you're gonna have people falling out of the process, right? Oh, I got to an alpha, but I never got around to play testing with anyone.
Right.
People fall out. Then you get to play testing. Oh, I play tested once. People didn't like it. I gave up. So like the people that actually get to the point of whether they self-publish or get it signed by a publisher, it's actually a really small percentage of people who have attempted to design a game that get a published design.
Right.
And I don't say that to like scare anyone, but I do say
Right.
it to say you're kind of in control of your own destiny, right? Like you get to choose when to stop. And
Right.
if you really feel passionate about it, I just encourage people keep going. Like, you know, the what's that saying with like Thomas Jefferson or whoever like failed 100 times
Right.
to capture the electricity or whatever that
Right.
thing
Yeah.
is.
It's the light bulb, and he
Yeah,
said, "No, I didn't fail 100 times. I learned 100. I learned 1,000 ways to not do it."
There you go.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
like it's that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's true for anything. Like
Yeah.
even outside design, anything else. Like,
Right.
don't get discouraged. Like everyone's gonna hit roadblocks.
Mm.
The key is persevere, see yourself being successful, and you can make it happen.
There you go. See, now I'm all amped and jazzed, thinking, oh, man, I got like 15 ideas. I better get to
Yeah.
starting on all of them. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Trust me. I mean, and we all have that. Like, oh man, like I often wish there was some magic thing you could do to turn an idea into something physical,
Oh,
right? Like
absolutely. Like
immediately.
immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I can picture it now. It exists, right? Like
Right. I,
maybe
I,
maybe in 100, 200 years they'll have that'll be possible. I don't know.
yeah. We'll have some sort of like, uh,
Crazy technology.
yeah, in our brain that we just look at a replicator like Star Trek and then just go,
Yeah.
I think that would be cool. That
Yeah,
is
it's like a
cool.
9D printer, right? Like a
Right.
nine-dimensional printer, and it's just like, here's your thought. Now it's
Right.
being printed.
Right. That would be scary. I think Mushroom Julie had a really funny one here. She says, best pitch moment ever. Designer made a kid's dexterity game, started their pitch. Julie says, "Hey, do you know what kind of games we make?" Designer derailed from pitch. Um, Good ones? Correct answer.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
yeah,
so good.
that's
Yeah, I've always it's kind of funny is, I've had some folks come to me and tell me that they've designed a game or are working on a game, and I always tell them was like, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be your prototype doesn't have to look like it belongs on the shelf at your FLGS. I've seen people pitch a game concept on sticky notes before and get published. And I was like, "What?" But the thing is, like you said, do your research of the publishers you want to talk to, so or at least to narrow down the publishers that might fit the genre or the idea of what you're trying to get going. And if it's not totally complete, the great thing about publishers is they can visualize and see what you have if there's something there, right? It may not be what you necessarily want it to be. Like you might look at something and go, "Ooh, that would be good for us, and we could skin it in this fashion to fit more of our genre specific kind of stuff." And then someone else might look at it and go, "Well, we could actually reskin it and do it in a space age or
mhm,
whatever." And I also always tell them is if they can get it into a publisher. Most publishers have a stable of artists that already exist for them that they've worked with over
mhm,
years, and so don't worry about your art assets in your game design if you're going to look at getting a publisher to pick it up, but have good representation of what you kind of are visualizing in some capacity. There's enough potential free artwork out there that you can use
mhm,
for prototyping, and then the last thing I tell them is also look at their Kickstarter history, which leads us back to your guys' Kickstarter.
mhm,
If you can get, if I were to do a Kickstarter for a game that I wanted to self-publish or whatever, I'm going to get a few people, my friends, maybe one or two of my family, because family almost never backs family. uh, but a publisher that has a history of successful Kickstarters has an audience, and the potential of you having your game in more people's hands and on more people's tables is better with a publisher who has a good track record of successful Kickstarters, which again takes us back to Final Girl Season 3 for everybody watching. If you have not yet gone and take a look at it, Google Final Girl Season 3 or just look it up or Series 3 on Kickstarter. Give it a look. If it's something that you think is would be great on your table, which I think you will find that to be the case, give it a back if you haven't backed it already. And if you can't back it, at least share it. Let your friends and family know that it exists. And you never know, someone might see it and go, "Oh, that's exactly in my niche and my genre and my interests," and maybe they'll find the opportunity to back it and share it as well, so more people can get eyes on it. And I know Julie keeps putting it in the chat. I'm sorry, Julie. I can't fix it where it would show it. show the link, and I think all we're getting is three little stars, asterisk saying there's probably a link there. But yeah, let's hit those stretch goals. Let's get everybody all the good things because you know
Yeah,
why not?
absolutely. Yeah, we are approaching the next one here. Hopefully tomorrow it'll be hit. So
Nice,
yeah, no Kickstarter. That's a whole game in itself.
right?
A Kickstarter.
And I think it's funny is a lot of the pre-prep to a Kickstarter involves like if you're going to have stretch goals, where are they going to land on? At what level do you get these new stretch goals? And then with something like what you guys have had, did you have stretch goals that went to the level that you currently have, or did you have to like start thinking up some new ones on the fly or whatever because you've already exceeded your stretch goal uh, path?
No, we pre-plan definitely our stretch goals, and um, the way we do it is we kind of reveal as we go.
Hmm.
So because you can kind of put them all out there at the beginning, and then the risk you take when you do that is if the trajectory is not there, now all of a sudden people are seeing a bunch of stuff that it's clear they're never going to get right, and so
Right.
the psychological aspect of that is real and can have an impact. So we kind of have what we do is we have kind of bands that we work in,
Okay.
um, like and it's we keep it pretty consistent with what we plan, but we do have a little bit of wiggle room. If we, you know, want to drop a stretch goal to be, in the next, you know, depending on the scale of the campaign. In this campaign, we're unlocking them every 75 to $100,000, which is a huge amount, right? But we're
Yeah.
also doing a lot of big things like adding new miniatures, entire vignette expansions,
Okay.
and we do not, um, outside of special things like North Pole Nightmare, which also comes with a huge discount.
Hmm.
We try to avoid stretch goals that are add-ons. Like we don't we don't really want to say, hey, here's this new thing you can get if you want to pony up another $10, right? Like we
Right.
know that we're asking uh, a fair amount as it is, and we know the economics can work, and we know what the extra cost is going to be to
Okay.
do this extra mini or do this extra card or do so all of that is pre-planned, and if anyone is out there considering doing Kickstarters, like that's important, right? Like
Yeah.
if you don't plan and know the economics, you're going to get in trouble later on the back end, um, and you know, and that's gonna be problematic. And that's
Right.
again, like I said, like you're running a business, right? Like when you
Hmm.
choose to do this, and so we are very intentional, and I mean, down to like some small things you wouldn't even believe. Like if you were a fly on the wall in our office leading up to the Kickstarter, hearing some of the things we're discussing,
Right.
trying to get ahead of, we try to get ahead of every possible question. How are backers going to react to this? Are they going to like this thing? Are they not going to like that thing? Um, just everything, right? And we're
Yeah.
not perfect. We don't always get it right, and but we do more often than not. And I'm telling you, Rick, like all people want is to just be transparent and be treated fairly. Like
Right.
if you do that, you have a good product. You can be successful in Kickstarter or wherever else. Like
Right.
when
100%.
people start to feel like you're being deceptive or you're kind of trying to pull one over on them, that's when you really start to lose them. Like and so yeah, that's kind of our model is like, hey, it's cliche, but right, but like treat people how you'd want to be treated. So um, that's kind of what our philosophy is.
I think that's a cliche for a reason, right?
Yeah,
Because it's true. If you want to be successful and you want to and you want to be um, you know appreciated and approved, right? Get the seal of approval from the community because that's where it ends
yeah,
at the community, right? If you can't
yeah.
do
We're
that,
nothing. I mean, without
yeah,
our community and fans and
yeah,
customers, we don't have this business, and we don't get to do what we love. So
right,
um,
absolutely. I think you guys are doing it right. I think the community that's showing up tonight. Hey Jonesy, uh, what do we got here? Final Dad is here. Just made it in. Hey, that's a great name. Final Dad. Uh, that's great. Um, Jesus, I'm kind of like flabbergasted.
Jonesy's a bit of a Final Dad slash Jonesy. He's a bit of
Super
a
fan.
mythical. He's a mythical player in our Discord. He's well known for his. People think it's luck, but I've actually watched him play, and he's very good
All
actually
right.
at the game. And um, I think it's more attributable to that. Although he does tend to see it does seem sometimes like he rolls better than average. So
Hmm.
he's kind of built a reputation for himself in our
All right.
Discord.
So, like you said, he's a mythical legend amongst the players. That's
He's
awesome.
a bit of a final row unicorn, I guess you could say.
All right. That's super. I mean, what I was going to say is it's obvious that you have fostered an amazing community around Final Girl and the Van Ryder games. Publishing house there with the community that you're building on Discord and the way you engage with them, and of course, let's throw it out there. Bringing Julie on board doesn't hurt.
Of course.
Uh, so shout
Yeah,
out to
we brought Julie on. I mean, we have 7 employees. Our entire staff is honestly really amazing. They each do different things so well, um, and we're so excited. We're actually getting ready to we essentially have hired another person, and
okay.
people are going to be excited when they hear about that. But I can't say more than that at this point.
All right.
But that'll be happening within the next couple weeks. All that will be revealed. So we're adding to our sort of staff, our family here, and we
Cool.
couldn't be more excited about it.
That's awesome. I can't wait to
Yeah.
see the press release on that. That'll be
Yep.
great. So I got to give another shout out real quick to some of our other sponsors that allow us to be able to bring you this amazing program here on Gen Con TV. If you didn't know, you're watching Path of the Brush. I don't know what it says on the bottom there. It might say Path of the Brush art. That would be great. But big shout out to Mats by Mars, who made my fun little paint mat here with my
Oh, nice.
mascot here, my polar bear uh, game guardian, and also to Game Envy, who are the makers of the hobby handle, the brushes, and the fun little collapsible water cup that I use.
Mm.
Uh, so they make a lot of other cool products that are hobby adjacent in regards to the painting of miniatures and all that. So go give Game Envy, Mats by Mars, and uh, all of those Army Painter, Ultra Pro, and give them a big shout out and go check them out. And if you need some more tools for your painting toolbox, they provide. And again, big shout out to Van Ryder Games and AJ for joining us tonight here on the show and allowing us the opportunity to paint Krampus uh, early, which is awesome.
Mhm.
And I pretty much, for what I can do on the show, I'm done. I don't have my base. I'm not going to do basing on here, but I'm definitely going to put some basing on
Mm.
there. I don't know if I want to put like little skulls down around it because miniatures like this deserve skulls everywhere. The skulls of the
I mean,
elves,
if you did snow and like some gray skulls in the snow, that'd be pretty dope.
right? What are those skulls? Those are
But they have to
elves,
be like smaller. They're elf skulls.
right? Yeah, I think I might have a nice little bag of like 100 skulls that are super tiny that would look amazing on
Oh
there.
yeah.
Not 100 of them because that would just be gruesome. Um, but it would speak to the opportunity that Krampus has when uh, taking on the elves of the North Pole. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So we've only got a few minutes left in the program, so let's look to the future. Um,
Yeah.
Beyond the Kickstarter in 2024, there's a lot going on. Obviously, you're going to do the fulfillment process, and that's going to be it's going to take all of the hair from everybody on your team, and everybody's going to be
Mhm.
stressed out about it and everything. But what are some other things that you're really looking forward to for 2024 for Van Ryder Games?
Yeah, so we have a cool lineup of stuff. Actually, starting with end of this year, and at Essen, we're releasing it's a pre-release of a new game we have coming out called Garden Guest, which is a little almost the opposite of like a Final Girl, where it's a beautifully created and artistic abstract strategy game,
Okay.
um, where players are trying to get from one end of the board to the other first. And so it's very thinky and kind of, but with not a super heavy rule set. So
Okay.
we're excited about that one. We think that one's gonna really go great for us at Essen.
All right.
And
Which is
then
like this week, right?
yeah, which is like next week.
Okay.
Yeah, next week. So I'm not gonna be there, unfortunately. I got to go to a wedding, but the team will be there. Julie and Evan and team.
All right.
And so we got that. Yeah, that's coming up. And then the wider release, is looking like it's going to happen in November,
Okay.
November, December for that one. And then we have another detective expansion, Saints and Sinners, that we funded earlier this year. That'll be coming out in this year, beginning of next year. Yeah, that's looking great, man. That looks awesome.
I was really excited about the fact that you have like a silver bell on his left hip or on
Hmm.
his right hip, and then there's a package or another piece on his inside there, that I like another pouch or something. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he's looking great. The people in the chat were asking for another close up, but so you got
yeah.
all these, you got the stuff going on
We
this
got
year.
those. We got our first RPG coming out next year, The Revenants. That's Julie's kind of first project that she's been running,
What?
basically leading the charge on. It's not her design, but she's the
Like,
operational owner of that.
okay.
And that's kind of like a time loop game where you're trying to figure out how you died as your own ghost, right?
Ooh, all right.
Um, so and it has like this Art Deco look. It's real cool.
All right.
And then beyond that, one of the things I'm really excited about, and we announced in our summer announcements, is a game we're working on called Tales of Myth and Legend,
Okay.
and that is a Greek mythology version of kind of like a paragraph book game, like Tales of the Arabian Nights, for example.
Okay.
Um, and so I've always been like a huge lover of Greek mythology, and
Okay.
so I mentioned earlier that was one of the ideas I actually put out there, and a designer team brought us that game, and I was like, I basically made a post and said, if anyone brings me one of these games, I will at minimum look at it, and that was one of them.
Okay.
So they brought it, and now we're doing it. So that's going to
Nice.
be a bigger game, but we're excited about that one.
Nice.
And then we've got a few other things, but I think that's probably kind of enough to go off for now.
All right. So you got some fun stuff going on for the rest of this year. Some early bites for next year, and then I'm
Yep.
guessing probably March ish at Gamma. Maybe some more announcements for the 2024 arena.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the person we're hiring is a marketing person, so we will be better at that stuff.
Okay.
The way we've always kind of operated is a little bit off the cuff when it comes to announcements and things like
Hmm.
that. And it's like, yeah, maybe we'll have an announcement at Gamma, but so we'll probably get a little more organized around that,
Okay.
which is good.
Right.
And so, yes,
Okay.
probably.
I like that. I like the probably we'll figure it out and it'll
Right.
happen. And I yeah.
Yeah.
So I look forward to hearing who this new addition is. And I think the community
Yes.
is probably chomping at the bit now too,
Yeah.
which
I
is great.
guarantee you. Well, I can't. I guess I can't guarantee it, but I'm
I probably know who it is.
98% confident that you know who it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not too many people in the marketing arena in our space that I don't
Right.
know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that'll be
So
pretty cool. I'm excited, and I'm excited for you guys because if it's going to be a big add in, it's only going to
yeah.
be to the benefit of what you guys are already doing and doing well, obviously. Um, so let's give that call to action again to everybody watching. If you haven't done so yet, go look up Final Girl Series 3 on Kickstarter or Google and take you to the Kickstarter page. Check it out. Look at all the cool things they got going on with the different pledge levels that you can go on, and all the cool stretch goals that are taking place and have already gone through. Like you guys have blown through so many already.
Yeah.
Um, and then if you can, back it. And if you are in a position where that's not an option, at least share it. Share it. Let your
Yeah.
community and your friends and family know about an awesome project that is the Final Girl Series 3. Um, and other than that, I'm thinking we're pretty much done tonight. How you
Yeah, I would
feeling,
just,
AJ? Was that good?
if I could just add, I
Yeah.
would also say, if you're not a solo gamer, you're not into horror, go check out our website. We actually have a lot of different games on vanridergames.com,
Mhm.
um, that you know people might be interested in as well. And we've talked about a lot of this tonight, so I really appreciate
Yeah.
Rick, you let me come on. I've had a blast
I
talking
appreciate
board
you
with
being
you.
here. We
Love
don't do this
watching.
enough,
I
you
think
and I.
campus looks great.
Thank you. But you and I don't do this enough. We don't just get to chat and because it's always busy. It's
Yeah,
always work. Where whenever
yeah,
we're near each other in regards to convention scene and stuff.
very true,
And
very true.
I like the chance to I get to learn a little bit more about you and the company, and also
Mhm.
the fact that you played sports at a
Yeah.
high competitive level. And I admire anybody that plays in those arenas and finds successes and also loved ones. So that's pretty
That's
cool.
right.
Yeah. Um, but until next time, everybody, make sure you go to your friendly local game store. Uh, Support your local game scene. Be a part of the community because I know they want you to be a part of their community. And pick up the
Right.
brush. Join us on that path where we are having fun painting, learning more skills, and just having a good time in this wonderful community that we call fun and gaming. Until next week, when we'll have someone from Weird, makers of Malifaux and Vagrant Song, and a bunch of other fun, spooky kind of games. That's what we're doing next week. I can't tell you what we're painting. It's going to be amazing and super fun. But yeah, until next week, paint more stuff. Don't lick the brush. Don't eat paint. It's all bad for you. Talk to you soon.
See ya.